So do I think Bronny belong in the league? Hell no. He ain't that good. He ain't even that good to be playing overseas against them overseas players.
JJ Redick lost his mind screaming at him during timeouts. A G League coach got so frustrated he stormed off after Bronny quit mid-game. Stephen A. Smith went on television saying he wasn't ready, which led to LeBron walking up to him courtside looking for answers. We're talking about Bronny James and the clips that just broke social media. Time to dive deep.
Went to the sideline with his injury. Luka's in pretty deep, kicks it into the corner. Bronny getting the start tonight. Has seen plenty of action.
When the internet explodes over sports footage. Look, some basketball moments go way beyond what happens between the lines. These are the moments that expose everything ugly about expectations, pressure, and what happens when talent meets reality. What we're breaking down today is exactly that kind of moment, the kind that forces every person who watches basketball to confront a question they'd rather avoid. Can Bronny James actually handle this level?
They wouldn't do that with nobody else.
I feel you.
If this was not LeBron James' son, the Lakers would not take the time to build with him and invest the time and the resources that they're doing if this wasn't LeBron James' son.
Yeah.
They're only doing this out of nepotism.
So here's what went down, and you need the full context before we get to the actual footage. The Lakers selected Bronny James with the 55th pick in 2024, a choice that immediately set the basketball world on fire and hasn't stopped burning since we hit 2025. Being LeBron James's kid means carrying weight that no rookie has ever dealt with. You're not just a player anymore, you're a walking debate about fairness, privilege, and everything people argue about when sports meets family connections.
Bronny James going to the NBA. He only averaged 4 points a game in college. He got a guaranteed contract for $7 million as a rookie, which is not heard of. You don't think that's taking food out of somebody else's plate?
The stats tell a brutal story. Through late 2025, Bronny had played just 10 NBA games, putting up 2.1 points and 1.8 assists while shooting 29.6% from the field and 27.3% from beyond the arc. Those numbers scream struggle. These aren't the numbers of someone who looks comfortable at this level. These are the numbers of someone fighting just to stay afloat in a league that destroys players who show any weakness.
So do I think Bronny belong in the league? Hell no. He ain't that good. He ain't even that good to be playing overseas against them overseas players. Bronny need to be a high school assistant basketball coach or a PE teacher somewhere. But he ain't good enough to play in no more league.
But here's what makes this situation absolutely wild. Bronny locked in a 4-year deal worth $79 million, completely guaranteed. Late second-round picks don't get that kind of security. They get two-way contracts and have to prove themselves every single day. That kind of guaranteed money for those kinds of numbers only happens when your last name is James. Word is that Rich Paul, who represents LeBron through Clutch Sports, basically told other teams to stay away from Bronny or he'd take his talents to Australia. That funneled everything straight to the Lakers, so LeBron could live out his dream of sharing the court with his son.
But we think we do.
You just hit it on the head. Bronny James, it was a big debate about that, nepotism and getting it out the mud. A lot of people, majority of black people, we value getting it out of the mud instead of somebody in our family helping us, which happens all over, you know, corporate America, everywhere, sports, everywhere that we could think of, acting gigs. We see it everywhere.
Now we get to the footage that made everyone lose their minds.
Hell with them other niggas who daddy ain't up at GameStop and can't get them no job, nigga. Shout out to Philly Dog. Yeah.
That's a great analogy. My dad, when I graduated high school, he got me and all my homies jobs at the GameStop warehouse.
Yeah. So homie,
and we didn't earn it. We didn't earn it.
But did y'all appreciate it?
Oh, of course.
Did it enhance some of y'all life?
The first clip that absolutely destroyed social media happened during a Lakers game when head coach JJ Redick got caught going nuclear on Bronny from the bench. This all went down after Bronny decided not to take what looked like a wide open shot, which is basically basketball suicide when your coach is preaching this Twit 5 philosophy about making split-second decisions. Sources say Redick absolutely unloaded on him, and the cameras caught every second of it.
Is it fair? No. But life ain't fair, young people. Homie, sometimes you can work hard and not go nowhere in life. Sometimes you can do everything right, work hard, follow all the rules, do everything, and still not get picked. Life ain't fair.
The reaction was instant chaos. Half the basketball world praised Redick for treating Bronny like any other player who needs that kind of push. The other half called it way over the line, saying you don't publicly embarrass a 21-year-old who's already drowning under pressure.
I think one of the important things to bring up is what, what you brought up in regards to the nepotism, because I don't want to hear it either. And I really appreciate and applaud you for bringing it up, because you hear people mumbling about that in the weeks and the days leading up to the draft. It is something that has permeated throughout the NBA for quite some time, okay? And on all levels. And no one has said anything. It's never been an issue that I can remember.
Charleston White, who never holds back on controversial takes, made the nepotism argument as blunt as possible.
When I talked about Bronny James early in the season, and I highlighted the fact that at that particular moment in time, he simply was not ready, I was calling out LeBron James. LeBron James never addresses that with anybody, and for some reason, no one ever asked him about that. Wasn't it you who said that Bronny James was better than some players in the NBA right now before he was even drafted? Wasn't it you who said, if you want me, draft my son because you wanted to play with your son for 1 year? Wasn't it you who literally circumvented meritocracy within the National Basketball Association?
This kid didn't earn his spot. Look at what Bronny did at USC during his freshman season. 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists while shooting 36.6% from the field across 25 games. Those numbers normally equal going undrafted, no question about it, but that's not what happened, and everyone knows exactly why it didn't.
He's lying when he says that I attacked his son. When he came up to me courtside at the Lakers-Knicks game, he was lying then. He threw me off guard because he said, you can't be pooping on my son because we over FCC Airways. You can't be doing that. I didn't know what he was talking about, so it threw me off. Had he came up to me and said, what the hell are you doing talking about me as a father? I would say it's because of what you were doing with your son on the basketball court for public consumption.
After the Redick situation, Bronny actually handled the media pretty well. He talked about learning to play without the ball and actually gave Redick credit for the tough coaching approach. He said they've got established ball handlers and he needs to figure out how to be effective in a different role, taking open shots and improving in that area. The performance numbers actually supported what he was saying. A few days after the Redick incident, Bronny went back to the G League on November 22nd and had what might have been his best game of the season. 15 points on 5 of 10 shooting, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals as his team crushed the Santa Cruz Warriors 11-15 to 95.
And the only reason he's in the NBA because he's LeBron's son. Nepotism, brother. Stephen A. got the right to say that. You can't get mad at me about my opinion.
But the peace didn't last because weeks later another video dropped that made the Redick situation look like nothing. December 2025, South Bay Lakers G League game. Bronny gets into what can only be called a heated confrontation with either interim head coach Perry Huang or one of his assistants. The footage shows serious tension, voices raised, arguments about decision-making after what people described as another slow start. Then comes the part that made everyone's heads explode. Bronny walked off the court, right in the middle of the argument. Just walked away.
Earning his stripes and participating against that lesser competition and busting there, you know what, to show that he deserves to be in the NBA. Because even though people are gonna hate no matter what, the legitimacy of their arguments are gonna dissipate drastically once you continue to show out like that. Once you continue to show that you belong like you started showing last night. Congratulations to Bronny James, but keep it up. It's a marathon, baby, it ain't a sprint.
This video hit YouTube on December 5th with the title Bronny James walks off court. Heated clash with G League coach caught on camera and immediately went viral. His stat line that night made it even worse. 10 points on 4 of 12 shooting, missed all 5 3-pointers, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, and 4 turnovers. Those aren't numbers that give you any room to argue with coaches.
Yeah, we're not rolling the dice. There was not enough data on it. It's like you have a cardiac arrest. It is over. We don't want this on our resume. They was not going back to perform the play. And he told me, he was like, man, I'm gonna be honest, it took me about 2.5 years to finally get back to just normalcy. Like my body, my mind, and he said when it happened to me, I was 23 years old. Bronny was 19 years old, and he's like, it's gonna take a little time, and I reason with that, but also he's doing things right now less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's because of his determination.
Let me be completely clear about something though. Nobody threw punches. This wasn't some brawl situation. No physical contact happened at all. Everything was verbal. But the intensity of what got captured on video has completely changed how people talk about Bronny James.
LeBron ain't perfect, and I'm one of the first to point out his imperfections. On the basketball court, of course. Nowhere else. But let me tell you something. He's an all-time great. He's never cheated the game. And that brother works his tail off to improve all the time. Emulate Pops to the best of your ability, and you'll be just fine.
Social media went absolutely insane. Twitter users spent days arguing about whether Redick's approach was necessary coaching or just cruel treatment of a young player who's clearly struggling. The clips fed every single argument about nepotism and whether anything Bronny gets is actually earned or just handed to him because of his father's legacy.
You turn it over in practice, I'm gonna say something to you. You do something on film, I'm gonna say something to you. That's the only way it works, because as we all know, and you've been around teams, the second the rules are different for him, you might lose the other players on the team. So you have to go into this with a plan, but the plan is simple, Malika. Do the right thing. The right thing is coach him to win.
Former players like Kwame Brown and Chandler Parsons have been absolutely ruthless in their criticism. Brown straight up said Bronny's only in the NBA because of LeBron. Parsons called the whole draft selection embarrassing nepotism, and that's where this story transforms into something way bigger than just basketball.
What's next season gonna be like for LeBron James? Hear me out. Your son is now a member of the team. Regardless of how wrong we know people are going to be, they're going to be throwing nepotism in LeBron's face. They're going to be throwing, to some of the teammates. Remember, Udonis Haslem said weeks ago, you're going to have people in the Laker locker room once JJ Redick arrived, because it's not just Bronny James that's arrived. It's JJ Redick, who you were doing a podcast with during the season, that arrived.
The nepotism conversation has completely taken over everything. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone knows. This has turned into a full-scale cultural war. But there's another side of this argument that deserves attention. Not everyone thinks what LeBron did was wrong. Some people argue it's exactly what any good father with that kind of power would do for his kid.
What is a parent? What is any stronger? What pulls at you more than your children? I don't think anything. I don't think anything in the world matters to a parent more than their child. And so to go through a season with your son, I'm imagining no one's ever really, there's no blueprint for that. I don't know that anybody's ever done that. So there will be some amazing highs and there will be some lows.
ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski shut down the nepotism complaints entirely by pointing out that the NBA is absolutely loaded with family connections and ownership, front offices, and coaching positions. And he's not wrong about that. The Buss family has controlled the Lakers since 1979. Danny Ainge's son Austin became the Jazz president. Mike Malone got his coaching start because his father was a legendary assistant. Josh Kroenke runs the Nuggets because Stan Kroenke owns them. The Colangelo family has been embedded in multiple front offices for decades. Some cultural commentators have actually flipped this whole thing around, calling what LeBron did black excellence in action. Their argument is that minorities almost never get access to these kinds of privileges in systems that have historically favored wealthy white families. From this perspective, LeBron using his influence to help his son is just doing what generations of powerful white families have done without anyone questioning it. But then Stephen A. Smith stepped into this conversation with something that made everyone stop and pay attention. Before we get into what Stephen A. said, you need the background. Back in March 2025, LeBron actually walked up to Stephen A. courtside during a Lakers-Knicks game and confronted him about his criticism of Bronny. The whole thing got caught on video and went viral, which forced Stephen A. to address it on his show. Then everything flipped when Stephen A. went completely off script after LeBron appeared on the Pat McAfee show to respond to him. The back and forth between LeBron and Stephen A. has become one of the most compelling storylines in this entire saga. Stephen A absolutely went off defending his position with the kind of intensity that only he can bring to television. LeBron's public statements haven't helped his case either. Before Bronny even got drafted, LeBron claimed his son was better than half the players you see on League Pass. That statement has aged about as well as you'd expect given what we've seen on the court. This whole debate has gotten so intense that it's basically overshadowed everything else about Bronny's actual basketball development. Every game he plays, every missed shot, every coaching confrontation caught on camera just feeds back into this endless argument about whether he deserves his position. Maybe that's the real tragedy in all this. A young player trying to figure out his game in the most demanding league in professional sports, while nobody can discuss anything except who his father is. So where does this leave Bronny James right now? Where does it leave the Lakers? And where does it leave basketball fans who've become so obsessed with this story they can barely focus on anything else happening in the league? Let's start with what we actually know about Bronny's development, because underneath all the noise, there is some growth happening. Through January 2026, Bronny has appeared in 45 total games between the 2024-25 and 2025-26 seasons, averaging 1.6 points, 1.1 assists, and 0.8 rebounds, while shooting 30.2% from the field and 25.0% from three with a -4.2 net rating. Those numbers are rough, and nobody's gonna pretend otherwise, but there have been glimpses of something better. December 31st, 2025, Bronny had what many people called his breakthrough performance in the G League: 20 points on 8 of 11 shooting, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists against the Memphis Hustle. That's the kind of game that gives you hope that maybe there's a real NBA player developing underneath all the pressure and media attention. His strengths are starting to show up more consistently: defensive awareness, athleticism, making plays in transition, and occasional moments where he attacks the basket with real aggression. His weaknesses are just as obvious though. Shooting consistency remains a major problem with that 27.3% three-point percentage. Decision making is still shaky with a .72 assist to turner ratio, and he's undersized for his natural position. There's also context that gets forgotten in all these debates. July 2023, Bronny suffered cardiac arrest during USC practice because of a congenital heart defect. He needed surgery and missed half his college season. That's not something minor you just bounce back from. For any 19-year-old to have their heart stop, face their own mortality, and then return to competitive basketball at the highest level takes incredible mental strength. Bronny addressed this directly in a March 2025 interview with The Athletic, acknowledging that he knew the nepotism conversation was coming, but saying it actually motivates him. He said he sees everything people say and it fuels him. The Lakers continue showing patience despite everything. As of January 2026, there haven't been any trades or cuts even with Bronny's struggles. The organization is sitting at 25-20 and seems committed to seeing this through long term. Analysts who followed his development most closely see two possible outcomes. Either Bronny develops into a legitimate defensive specialist and role player, someone like Pat Connaughton, or his struggles continue until LeBron retires, which is rumored to be after the 2026-27 season, and then the Lakers' patience might finally run out. But maybe the most important question isn't about Bronny at all. Maybe it's about us, about how we consume sports now, about the stories we choose to blow up, about whether we even give young athletes space to develop anymore in this age of instant judgment and viral content. The viral footage of JJ Redick screaming at Bronny and the G League walk-off incident have become tests for how people view professional sports. Some see necessary accountability, others see cruelty. Some see a father's love corrupting a merit-based system. Others see opportunities finally being extended to people who've been historically excluded. The truth probably exists somewhere in that messy middle ground. Bronny James isn't an NBA caliber player right now, and that's just reality. But whether he can develop into one, whether he'll get the time and space to grow into that role, that's the story still being written every single game. As long as his father remains one of basketball's all-time greats, as long as debates about nepotism and merit keep raging, as long as every moment of his career gets captured, analyzed, criticized, and turned into memes, Bronny James will remain one of the most fascinating and frustrating stories in professional sports. Because when you strip everything away, he's just a 21-year-old trying to figure out who he is as a player. Not as LeBron James' son, but as Bronny James the basketball player. Whether we'll ever actually let him do that remains the biggest question of all.